Hi guys, it's Savannah Rose. I am back from New York and in Texas once again. I am currently staying in my cousin's room, so I finally have a room and I finally have a solid place to stay, which is super exciting for me because it's been a year since I've had like a solid landing spot. And this is still a temporary situation until my dad and all of us move into our own place, but it's still really nice to have like my own four walls and walk-in closet and like a place to call my own. So super excited to report that I am safe, everything is good, and just wanted to talk about a blog post I wrote today on trauma. And so this might be kind of hard for me to talk about, but I'm going to try not to edit, and I'm going to try to just kind of keep the ball rolling so that this topic can come out of my mouth and through your speakers into your ears. And hopefully you can kind of think a little bit about the idea that I present to you in the post. So the blog post is called Trauma First I can't even remember the name of the blog post. It's called Trauma First the Blow, Then the Bruise. And in the blog post I talk about all the things I've been going through. So I guess I'll just kind of put it out there. So since landing here, from moving back from California and having lived out of my car and staying with family and friends and like working to survive and kind of keep myself afloat during that whole period of time, I have been very skittish. I've written 2 blog posts about it if you want to kind of read a little more information, but I'm going to try to just keep on going. I've been really skittish in terms of I spend a lot of time in my room. I have a really hard time not picking up after myself. And by that I mean like I compulsively, like I have to make sure everything is tidy and clean. My whole room right now is like really clean, except for my desk because I'm using it. But I am very antisocial. I have been having a hard time, like even being around family makes me anxious, and I get very standoffish, even around like my dad or my cousins or my brother, or I just feel very strange around people. A friend of mine came to see me yesterday. We went for a walk, and the whole time like I couldn't look him in the face. It's been very difficult for me to cope with everything I've been through, and for me to recover and be able to act as normally as I did before everything happened. So I guess to start, just to kind of summarize, over the last year, I used to live in this house in a different room with my aunt. Well, I guess going even further back, I'll start from the beginning. My dad, when I got out of high school, kicked me out, and the plan was already for me to go to Texas to try it out, but around the end of it, we had a hard time with me growing up, I guess I'll put that in short. So he ended up kicking me out of the house. I moved here, and I lived here for 6 months, and then I moved back to California because my boyfriend's there. Him and I have been together for 2 years, so we've been together through me getting kicked out. We've been together through all of the trauma that I'm going to talk about in this video. We've been together through everything. So he was there. I wanted to go back to him, and my brothers and my mom had just moved back there, so I wanted to go back and kind of reunite everybody, and in my mind, it was more important for me to have like that unit together than it was for me to have like a solid, comfortable spot. So I moved from here, where I had like a nice big room and all of those nice things, and I moved to California to live out of my car. And then bullet point notes, I moved in with when I moved there for 2 weeks, I didn't have a place to land. I was couch hopping. Then I lived with my mom in her living room, and then that didn't prove to work out too well. So then I moved, and I lived with my dad in he made himself a room in the dining room of our old apartment because he didn't have a room for himself. So I shared his converted living room with him. And we ended up moving my brother's bunk bed, and I slept in there. So I shared a room with my dad, and I only had a few drawers to keep my stuff, and I had all my stuff in storage. And then my dad moved to Texas. So my mom moved to New York, then my dad moved to Texas in November. And I spent November and December living out of my car, staying with friends and family, and working and just trying to make things happen while like having car issues, obviously having a lot of like mental breakdown issues because my family was leaving, and while kind of dealing with some issues in Benjamin and my relationship, which have been since resolved, but we were going through those things. So that's what I've been through in the past year, and I, in my blog post, posed a question whether what I'm going through is post-traumatic stress disorder. Kind of the anxiety and just the lingering feeling of like I am going to get thrown out of this house, or fear that I'm going to set someone off or I'm going to say the wrong thing. It's been really hard. So I posed the question as to whether that's what I'm going through. And I referenced, I've been through 2 other sorts of trauma that have really affected me and that I left scars on me that will never go away, that will only fade. 2.5 years ago, I went to a nutritionist to start the recovery from bulimia. I was bulimic for 2.5 years, something along those lines. Yeah, I think it was like 2.5 years. And that had similar kind of sequencing of events that I felt when I went through this whole car thing. Like when the situation was happening, I was so wrapped up in my routine. I was so wrapped up in like eating, working out, purging, and then doing it all over again. And well, binging, eating / binging, and then yeah. And I was so wrapped up in kind of like, this is how it is. Like, people are gonna look at me, they're gonna think I'm fat. Like, I always thought I was fat no matter how hard I trained, no matter how small I got. I'm 5'6", and obviously I have a pretty big chest size, and I got to be around 140, which could be healthy if my eating tendencies were more healthy. I wasn't even eating enough for the amount that I was training, so my body was not responding in the best way. I wasn't getting the results I wanted because I wasn't eating food the right way. So, and then with living out of my car, it was normal to just be stressed out all the time and to wake up in different places all the time, and to feel like I wasn't secure. It was normal, and that was what I was used to. And then after recovery, instead of feeling relief, I felt shock. And that's kind of the same thing I felt when I got here, as I felt shock. Having my own place and like people that that I didn't have to tiptoe around because I'm paying to stay here. I should be safe, I should be okay. And with eating disorder, it was the same thing. Like, after my nutritionist appointment, my dad took me to Five Guys and bought me like a burger and fries, and I had to like mentally focus on not going to throw it back up. So I felt similar responses and similar effects afterwards, which I mean, the other type of trauma that I have gone through is I have been raped by somebody who I thought was a friend of mine and who wasn't, and took advantage of me in a bad time. And I went through the same emotions. I felt, when it was happening, I blocked it all out. I don't remember any of it now. But when it was happening, I was just like, okay, this is happening, like, what's happening right now? And then afterwards, kind of realizing what happened, and then after he made a comment about manipulating somebody to get what you want, I realized what had really happened. And it was shock immediately. Like, I was shocked that somebody could do that to me. I was shocked that I've always had guy friends my whole life, and I never thought that somebody like I thought was close to me, somebody I thought cared about me, could ever do something like that. And then the fear of all of my guy friends like this. It was hard for me to hug like my guy friends after that, because I thought I was close to this friend. I thought he cared about me, and then he did that. So it was hard for me to readjust. It was hard for me to see him. I went to school with him, so I would have to see him around the halls, and I'd have to see him every day. And it was hard for me to be physically intimate with somebody. Yeah. So I kind of compare and contrast, and I pose the question, and I would like to pose the question, just because something isn't what we typically consider to be an event that we would typically associate with PTSD. And the examples I used were like rape, experiencing death, or near-death experiences yourself, like experience someone else's death, or or abuse, extreme abuse, or not extreme abuse. Whether just those like ideal like categories that we tend to look at when it comes to PTSD, are they equal or, at least comparable to a series of situations that add more and more and more grief and more anxiety to a person, that all have a similar theme, but might not exactly be like one centralized event. Because as I said, I've gone through that trauma, and this feels very similar, and it's hard to deal with it. It's hard to talk about it. And for the people out there who might be dealing with trauma right now, or might be dealing with the backlash of anything that they're going through, what I've been doing is taking really, really good care of myself. So I'm not working and I'm not in school right now. I just moved here to kind of solidify, and I'm still looking for a job. So I'm taking this time beyond looking for a job to remind myself I'm okay, to when I get this tight feeling in my throat that I have right now, remind myself that I'm okay, to, read, relax, sleep. Sleep is super important, especially, like, I was really falling behind on it. It's been 3 weeks since I visited my mom for 2 weeks, and then I came here, but I was sleeping a lot, and I've still been sleeping a lot, and I still genuinely feel very fatigued. So letting yourself sleep as much as you need to, but also exercising, so that way, you know that you're making energy for yourself, and it's not, the sleep isn't coming from sleep, or the fatigue isn't coming from sleeping too much. It is coming from like having to recover and heal. So working out, to get those endorphins going, and to try to keep yourself a little happier, a little more stable, sleeping a lot, as much as you need, and being okay with doing some solo activities. When I was in California, I was staying with friends and family all the time. I didn't have a room to myself. I didn't have time to a time from work and time from everything to step away and just be by myself. If I was by myself, I was in a coffee shop writing on my computer. I was at a park walking around, and, I'd made do with what I had, but making sure that you take the necessary time for yourself to breathe. Oh my god. I'm tired all the time. Taking necessary time to, if you need to, read, write, draw, create. I recommend staying away from too many, like, movies, TV shows, video games, just because it kind of sucks you out of your own world and puts you in another one. And while that can be good temporarily, it also kind of helps you to dissociate more from life. And the whole goal is to kind of start to slowly introduce yourself to coming back. So if, say, your coping mechanism is watching a lot of movies or TV, kind of slowly moving towards reading sometimes, or just watching a movie, like, say, at the end of the night, and then instead do it every other night, or whatever. Do the things that you love, but also make sure that you're really listening to what you actually need, and not just trying to put some big band-aid on it to make it go away. So that is my talk for this video. Let me know if you have any questions, anything you want me to talk about. I'm really an open book. Of course, it's hard to talk about some things that, are hard to talk about and are hard to feel and go through, and then have to but it's important to talk about things that bug you, so that you can start to recover. And I know that. So if there's anything you want me to kind of elaborate on, if there's anything you want me to share, any advice, or if you didn't like this video, or if you experienced something you can relate to, just let me know. Like, share, subscribe. If you liked it, and if you want to hear more, and then if not, just give me some feedback in the comments so that I know some things I can work on. So I hope that you guys were able to kind of think a little bit about this video, if not, gain something from it. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and have a good day.